Hi everyone, Jelly here, and thanks for coming to watch another video. So, as you can see from this screen, I ended up having to switch out the controllers I was using due to the drifting on the ones I had before being pretty bad. And apparently, if you lift your switch out of the dock when you are recording using the Elgato software that I use, apparently it erases all footage beforehand to that point, so we actually lost about an hour's worth of footage. So basically what's happening right now in the game is that Tom Nook has asked us to go ahead and help him build some island houses. Even though we have the two villagers right now, Tammy and Dom, he needs assistance building extra houses because when we talked to Clay, we actually started the process of wanting to bring more villagers on, and one of those villagers being Clay. So what I'm doing right now is I had to double check my house for what resources I did have or did not have, so that way I knew what I still needed to get. One of the nice things about having the house and being able to pull these resources is that you have an easy place to do it, and it's pretty organized with how they do it in there as well, making it super easy to get through everything. Before I end up crafting all the items, I did need to make a new bug net because I am trying to catch the cherry blossoms petals as I go by, but I also need to get a couple more iron nuggets and stones, most likely. So on my first attempt, I had Money Rock. Money Rock is a rock that appears once a day in your town, one of your normal rock spawns, and you actually have to go through and collect the amount. When you hit the rock, it produces up to 16,100 bells a day, so it's a really good way to make money really early in the game. Once we ended up getting enough iron nuggets, we made our way up to the upper levels since we did need flowers. Not the whole flower, just like the flower part of the flower, in order to make one of the items, which was a Cosmo wreath. One of the cool things about wreaths is when you give them to your villagers, it doesn't really show up right now in the game, but with the villagers, when you give them things such as the wreaths, they'll actually put them on their door or a door plate. So it's really cool. On my main island, all of my villagers have these door plates out. Most of them have flower door plates, but I also have some have a bone door plate. One has a stick wreath. It's really cool that they have all these options. Now that we have our inventory open up a little bit, since it looks like we did run out of room, we're able to make these two items. And even though we go and drop them off at the box, we do find out, and I did do this with two of the houses, that we did need to go and make one more item each of it. So as you can see from me walking away, I did end up missing an item, so I ended up having to go get the materials needed to make the item to place it around the house. In real time, if this wasn't a split up cut, this would end up taking about, I would say about a good 45 minutes to an hour. That's just how long it takes for these things to get set up, especially if you don't have all the resources right away. So then we move on to the third house. Clay's already moved out. So I was trying to choose houses so that way I only have one per acre, which isn't too hard to do. With the long pauses that you see on this where it tells you what I need, I was actually taking time to write down the name of the things I needed to make, and then I was going through and adding up the materials that I would need for each one, so that way I could make sure that from right away I would have enough. What I was also doing in order to make it easier to get to the materials I needed faster, I actually went and favorited all the items. So you can see I'm favoring like the water pump or the classic pitcher. That way when I have to go back and make these items, I'm not having to go back and check them, or I'm not going to have to go back and try to find them in all of the DIY recipes. And whenever you're looking to craft specific DIY recipes, especially later in the game, I do highly recommend favoriting them, since it will be easier to find them and recall them at a later basis. On my main account, I couldn't tell you how many DIY recipes I have, but I have enough that, like, if I didn't know how they were organized, I would have a hard time finding them. And even then, I still end up missing some of the DIY recipes I'm looking for, or like I have it but I don't think I have it because I can't find it, and then I try to relearn it, but then it turns out I do know it, and it just becomes this whole confusing mess when it gets to that point. So as you can see right now, I'm just chopping wood. One of the cool things that you can do in order to make sure that you don't lose track of your place when you are chopping trees or shaking trees is if something falls out, just leave it there. That way, if you're doing large chunks like I usually do when I'm resource hunting, that you get to see what you have chopped or what you haven't chopped, making it super easy to get to. And with the fallen branches you can see right there, those were to let me know that, hey, I've already shaken those tree, but also to let me know that if I do chop the tree, that a wasp nest isn't going to fall out. I know a lot of people prefer to also just go and DIY their tools in the game, but it eventually gets to the point where it's just easier to buy the tool, or at least for me, I do end up saving a lot of bells in this game just because of how I play, as well as how I work with the stock market, which is something that we'll cover in another video, specifically the next one. It's currently Saturday in the game right now, so I don't want to go into too many details, especially since I will go into more details, or at least the basic details, in the next episode. So as we can see now, I'm just double checking and submitting what I do have already made, and then as you can see, I go ahead and decorate these houses' front yards how I want to, and then I realized again that I was missing an item. I did it twice. I don't know how I managed to do it twice. I think I was just not paying attention enough, but luckily I still had the materials right there, and it was really easy to find and really easy to fix. Once we had it made, we went ahead and placed it, so that way we made sure all houses were complete. And you get so happy that all the houses are complete. Then we go ahead and talk to Tom Nook again, and he basically reminds us that, oh hey, yes, thanks for going to houses. I'll go ahead and contact the people that were interested in moving here that I promised fully furnished houses to. And then once they are all done, I'll just make sure that the sign says sold, so that way you know who's moving in. And we end up getting Clay, Midge, and Patty for our 3 moving in villagers, which isn't too bad. They're all pretty cute characters, though Midge has this weird swirl on the back of the head that we'll see in later episodes. As a reward, he ends up giving us fencing, and I just thought it would be a super cute idea to fence around the resident services. Fencing is one of those things that Isabelle will tell you multiple times that you want to have in order to have the best increase in your island rating. And so I end up using all of the fences, and was being pretty conservative at first when I was putting the fencing on, just because I didn't know how many I had. But I ended up being able to completely enclose the plaza, which we'll see in a second. I end up going back and forth in 2s, just making sure that everything is as even as possible, and having to do some rearrangement. And then I realized that I still had more than enough left over, so I took out 2 slots in the middle, and then I ended up having to replace the mic a little bit later in the episode. And then to finish it off, we did ask Tom Nook what we needed to do again, just to make sure we weren't missing anything. Alright, that's going to be the end of this video. Let's enjoy the closing ceremony, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!